The Pit Press Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Pit Press Podcast, man. And it's getting redundant, Ed. We're saying that a lot lately. My name's Ryan Tamori. Still recovering from that late, not transparent on a podcast, but still recovering from that late start last night in Vegas between Toledo and UNM. As always, I've got these 2 days off, and all I've done is watch college basketball. And I was very sad there was no hockey to gamble on last night. My co-host with us in this endeavor, as always, he's a Lobo fan since 1970, and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Ryan. Looking forward to our guest today. He's a very special, he's a very good friend of mine, and a heck of a good coach, and a heck of a good basketball player back in the day.
I've been busy, and Ed, you know me, when somebody like this comes across and in the lineage of American sports in this country, my radar goes off. So I'm excited to talk to this guy. Our next guest is the head women's basketball coach at Western New Mexico. He won an NCAA championship in 2003 with the Syracuse Orange under head coach Jim Boeheim. He was a 6'5" shooting guard / small forward. And that season he was a key contributor off the bench. I don't know, were they the Orange Men then or the Orange? I think they were the Orange Men then. And they're in that 2003 national championship squad. He averaged 8 points, 3.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and a steal during that team's tournament run. He played professionally abroad in the U.S. for 10 years and won an ABA championship with the Shreveport-Bossier Mavericks in 2014. He found himself into coaching. His name is Josh Pace. Coach, how are you doing? And thank you for joining us here on the Pit Press Podcast.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate that intro. That was a pretty cool intro right there.
It was, when Ed was like, hey, we need to get Pace on, and then he had mentioned you before, and he was like, hey, he was on that 2003 Syracuse team, and the first thing that popped in my head before Ed said it was like, how the hell did he find himself in New Mexico? Coaching takes you places, and it's very funny that when he mentioned that, everybody, and I'm a Knicks fan, so everybody thinks, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing about that, and we'll get to more of the coaching aspect, but I didn't even think about Carmelo. I thought about Hakeem Warwick blocking Kurt Heinrich on the last shot there. I guess I'll start with that question. What was going through your mind when that happened 20-some years ago?
Well, it was a pretty surreal moment. I had a really good tournament. I played during the regular season as well, but obviously we had a really good freshman named Carmelo Anthony. I had never seen first and foremost. I was a really good basketball player as well. I was second in Mr. Georgia behind Kwame Brown. I know that name sounds familiar.
Wow.
Yep. Came in second. So going to Syracuse, I was a pretty good basketball player. I had an okay freshman year, but my sophomore year, Carmelo came, and we had never seen anybody that good, that young, and we knew right away, okay, this guy, he's the real deal. We're going to have to follow his lead. But had a pretty decent season that year, got to the tournament, got more minutes, played well. So I was fortunate enough to be out there in that moment. So when Hakeem Warwick was my roommate, he's my best friend in college. We're still cool to this day. So to see him make that play was really cool. But it's a real moment. We had some moments in Syracuse history to where we've been in the Final Four. 1987, I think Keith Smart hit a shot on us in the Final Four in the championship game that won the game. So Syracuse hadn't had a championship. So to be a part of the only championship that we've had with that type of history and culture, Syracuse University is really cool to be a part of.
It's very funny. When I was in college and he was the head coach here was Steve Alford. He was on that team. But yeah, Keith, and I think Ronnie Cycli, that's a name you don't hear all that often there. Ed was on that Syracuse team.
Yes.
Look at the guy who was born that year, dropping that history.
And ironically, Coach, you mentioned 1987, Keith Smart hit that shot. Steve Alford also a member of that team, and Coach Alford, as you know, coached here at the University of New Mexico, had a 30-5 season here, and that was the best season New Mexico's ever had. And feelings run high, hot and cold with Coach Alford, but you got to give him his flowers, man. Mr. Indiana basketball won a gold medal, played for Bob Knight, played for his dad. That guy's got some past. You mentioned culture, Coach. That guy's got it.
He's a legend. He's a legend. Ronnie Cycling's a Syracuse legend as well. So,
yeah, oh yeah, no, number 4 played for the Miami Heat. I remember Ronnie cycling real well. Heck yeah, he was.
Absolutely.
You were invited. You were involved in the 2005 NBA Summer League before you went overseas, played for New Zealand. You were an all-star with the Nelson Giants. You know, the NBA Summer League has kind of evolved into this spectacular, and I think it's more for a spectacle in Vegas. But my question to you is, what was it like competing in the NBA Summer League? And how I asked this to a lot of former players that we have on that have played overseas. It's stiff competition. How good is that competition? So it's a 2-part question there.
It's really good. It was really good. I was with Utah. Jerry Sloan he believed in my game, and he liked the way I played. He invited me to Summer League that year. Deron Williams was their first pick. You know, so going up against him in Summer League was really cool, really good. I had a good experience. Didn't work out. I had a couple opportunities over the years when I was really younger to get in the NBA. Got cut a few times, but that was a great experience. And then, like you said, I went to Nelson. That was probably Nelson, New Zealand, my first real job. Did really well there, and started the process in terms of my professional career. And had a pretty solid career. Australia was the biggest country that I was in. As you can see how good the Australian league is now. NBA players are going over there, young, and come back ready to play and developing over there. So. Was able to accomplish that goal, had a pretty solid career, and then ended up retiring a little bit earlier, probably earlier than I had to, because I took a job at Pepperdine University coaching women's basketball. I actually played for the coach who offered me the job overseas. We did really well. A stint in New Zealand, he got a job at Pepperdine, and that's how I got into women's basketball. Helped turn that program around and got the opportunity to come to here, to Western New Mexico. So that's how I got here.
You know, Coach, you mentioned, we got some other questions for you, but when you mentioned Jerry Sloan, you were too young to remember, Coach. Played with Chicago Bulls with Norm Van Leer, hard-nosed ball player, mean, right? Would take the charges, would fight you in a New York minute. I remember him very well. Actually got suspended in the NBA for pushing an official one time. I don't know if you remember that. Talk a little bit about what you might have learned from him, but even in a short stint, because Coach Sloan was I think people forget, one of the greatest NBA coaches there was. He didn't win a title, but He was a hard-nosed coach.
Hard-nosed is the word. Hard-nosed, dedicated to that team at Utah and playing for him in that summer league. Well, him believing in me, because I played hard. I did all the gritty stuff, rebounded, scored in my opportunities, made good plays, assists, pass, block shots. So for him to have interest in me, to bring me to Summer League was really cool. But just to have that experience with him and to be around him. Ty Corbin was the head coach of the Summer League team at the time, but Jerry Sloan was there. So, just to be able to have that conversation and work out in front of him and through my NBA pre-draft workouts, worked out in front of him, and then he brought me back after I didn't get drafted to Summer League. It just let me know, I had done a good job to get to this point, and just to continue to work, even though I didn't make the NBA, continue to work, and it worked out for me.
Coach, you had a long, fruitful professional career overseas. You led the New Zealand League in scoring and played against one of the University of New Mexico's favorite players, and Willie Banks, and you and I have talked about this. What do you remember, as we call him here in Albuquerque, played for Albuquerque High here in Albuquerque, Chill Will? What do you remember about Willie Banks?
Very good basketball player. He was a little older by the time that I got to New Zealand, but he still was playing really well in the league. Very respected over there. He stayed over there, started a family and everything. I actually played against his son a little later in my career as his son got older. But down-to-earth guy, really cool guy. Obviously, he's a legend here in terms of basketball in New Mexico, and he's a legend there as well. So very, very good opportunity to play against him and, to see him and, see the things that he's contributed in another country in New Zealand as well.
Coach, you mentioned that he's just still the most chill person. That's why Chill Will, right? Never had a bad word to say about anybody. We asked him about one of the coaches here, Dave Bliss, who resigned kind of, over there at Baylor with some controversy. And I remember asking Willie about him, and all Willie would say, if you don't have anything nice to say about anybody, don't say anything at all. That was it. But one of the most chill Will, that nickname was perfect for him. Coach, you mentioned coaching. what made you want to get involved with coaching? You mentioned at Pepperdine on the women's side. You know, a lot of people would ask, you coached it, you played at Syracuse under Coach Boeheim. Why didn't you get involved on the men's side? You're doing great with the women. What made you want to get involved with coaching on the women's side?
Well, once I realized that I wanted to coach, and I didn't realize that till the end of my career. Like I said, I probably could have played 3 or 4 more years and did really well. I retired a little bit early, but I'm a guy that's about opportunity, people giving you chances. That's kind of what I do in terms of the recruiting. And as long as the young ladies are invested, I'll give them an opportunity and chance. But those times in my life to where I was figuring out life, figuring out where I wanted to play at, figuring out countries to play in, and all those things. When coaches reached out to me or my agent and I got the opportunity, it meant a lot to me. And when it came to any opportunity that I got, I was ready for the opportunity. And my goal was to make sure that if anybody invested or believed in me, especially as a basketball player, professionally, I took it serious, did a good job. And, in terms of men or women's basketball, I think I would be a pretty good coach in either instances, especially with my basketball background on the men's side. But my first opportunity was women's basketball, and it was somebody that I was familiar with and comfortable with. I actually played for him. He got the job at Pepperdine, Ryan Weisenberger. He gave me an opportunity his last 2 years of his deal, his contract, and brought me in. And, I saw right away when it comes to women's basketball, you have to really, really coach all the details of basketball. Us men, no disrespect to women, but there's some things that women can't do that you don't necessarily have to coach. The athleticism, speed. Women are fast too, but there's some things that you don't have to coach. But men are also they think they know everything and think they have all the answers when it comes to coaching. And so there's adversity there. But the opportunity came on the women's basketball side. I've enjoyed it. I've done a really good job. Just in terms of being able to adapt off the court to what our young student athletes need in terms of our program. Not necessarily canceling out ever going to the men's side again, but I do like where I'm at in terms of my coaching career so far. You
mentioned your background, and you took over from Lauren Unger. You were an assistant with Lauren Unger. She departed, and you took over. You had some success last year. Western won 10 games. You and I, we communicate a lot through text, and you'll tell me you were excited. Western's off to a 4-0 start, 92-65 win last Saturday against Arizona Christian, and the best game coach that I've seen Western New Mexico play since I've been the voice over there. The women play. Does this team? You mentioned the depth that was added with the transfers. Does this team have more depth than any team you've had so far at Western?
No question. The most depth and the most size. And some of those young ladies that you saw play in the fourth quarter, they're coming back from injury or some other things that has happened to get them on the court. So we got some good basketball that you haven't seen yet. And just like I told you the other day, we played well, but I think we can even play better. But in our conference, as you know, the Lone Star Conference, which I think is the best Division II basketball conference, sports conference in the country, we got some obstacles and some challenges coming. I told the girls the other day in the locker room right after the game, we're not gonna go undefeated. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you that now. But with that being said, y'all got a really good chance. I mean, you put everybody on alert that we are a good program now. We're gonna have adversity. That's the word that I like to use all the time. But to have a 4-0 start going into the conference, it's a huge deal. It's a big deal. And hopefully, we can continue getting better. Continue, pushing the envelope in terms of Western New Mexico University basketball. But my goal was to kind of get this program on the map, and then we go from there. And so we're here now, and we're going to see what's going to happen moving forward.
You mentioned adversity, and you know about that. You played in the Big East. You played for Coach Boeheim. You were part of a national championship team. I've been around basketball a long time. I always say, how do we respond when adversity strikes? What do we do? That's the mark of a champion. How do we respond? You're right. There's some divots in the road, man. There's no question about it. Any team goes through them. You mentioned the challenges. You and I talk about Lone Star Conference all the time. For people that don't know, I just watched West Texas A&M last night against New Mexico Highlands, and they took Highlands out, man. Pretty big, And Highlands, we beat Highlands earlier this season, 45-42. Talk a little bit about the challenges of coaching in the Lone Star Conference.
It's a tough conference. I mean, we're in New Mexico. A lot of the schools are in Texas. As you know, when it comes to football, specifically football, but basketball as well, Texas is a lot of talent down there. They got a lot of resources, So to get the program to the point to where we are now, to where we are competing against these teams, and these teams are respecting us now in the conference, which was really important to me. West Texas is always a good program. They've been flirting with going to the D1 level. They're still with us, obviously. It was a program that went to the Final Four a few years ago. We actually got a win on them last year. We played them twice a year. Lubbock Christian is a really good program. They won 3 or 4 championships in the last 6, 7 years, 8 years, something like that. 4, 5, 6 teams go to the NCAA 2 division tournament every year in our conference, out of our conference. So it's legit. It's absolutely legit. And, we are in a space right now to where we've got the program to where we're competing. We won some games last year, had our best season in the conference in 6, 7 years, So, we're feeling good, and we feel like we're where we're supposed to be, but a lot of work to be done. As I said earlier, we're not going to go undefeated. It's going to be some adversity, but hopefully our program sees the potential that we have and that we're capable, of winning games. And I asked them in the locker room the other day, do you believe now? And I think they believed the whole time, but I know they believe now, after the start that we've had. So
I'll tell you what I saw the other night or the other afternoon or Saturday afternoon, cohesiveness, teamwork, hustle, sharing the ball. You carved that zone defense up from the inside and the out. And, you attack gaps, stole the ball, turn those turnovers into points. Final question here for you, Coach. And, it's a tough question, but can this team challenge for a Lone Star Conference championship? I know it's a long way to go. I get it. You mentioned that to me. But do you feel like this team can challenge for a Lone Star Conference championship?
I think potentially we can. It depends on how we handle the adversity this year, but we are talented. We made a statement last year to have this start after this year, and even coming into this year, I think we're at 4, 5, 6. We won 6 games in a row at the end of last year to this year. So all of that is a big deal on this level in terms of competition. So I absolutely think that we potentially can be up there with those top dogs in our conference, but we still got a lot of work to do this year. But our girls now, invested all the way in terms of what we're teaching every day in practices, being on time to class, being on time to meetings. So we got the right chemistry for it. Hanging out together off the court, so all those things matter in terms of being able to win championships based off of my experiences. And then based off of the experiences of, people who I played with as well. So do we have an opportunity? Absolutely. Just like all the other teams, got a lot of work to do still. So I won't say we will, but there's absolutely an opportunity there for sure this year and moving forward.
One more quick question, Coach, and I'll turn it back over to Ryan. And I tease you about this all the time, man. Do you ever bust the ring out? Like, hey, do you ever bust the championship ring out just for show and tell? Do you ever do that?
You know what? They're at my mom's house. I have a championship ring from the NCAA, and I have a championship ring from our college. So I'm so nervous, man, to wear those and bring them out because it means so much to me. But when I go home for Christmas, I'm going to bring them back so you can take a look at them and so you can see them. I might wear them one of those games so you can see, so you can get a good feel for it. Because you've asked me that a few times, so I got to make sure I bring them so you can see them. They're nice.
I definitely want to see them. I definitely do.
Okay.
Ed, you got to take a picture for me. I'm kind of backtracking with this question. I'm looking at your stats against in your last game against Arizona Christian. You have 4 players in double figures. Brooke Rogers at 15, and I hope I get these names right. Eliza Jones joins 15. Alana Simon 12. Sydney Wright 11. When you and Ed had kind of mentioned it, and maybe I'm deeper dive on this question. When you have players clicking like that and you have 4 players in double digits, you got to be hard to beat, right?
Absolutely. And just a little background on Arizona Christian. They're an NAIA program, but they're a really good NAIA program. They came in 5-1. They got 2 really good guards who can play on our level for sure in our conference. And they've been doing a good job this year. And the 3 teams that we played before we played Arizona Christian teams are pretty decent, solid programs. They were all close games, so all close games on the road too, and we put the schedule together like that on purpose so we could get a good home game against a good, solid opponent after 3 road games. And our girls showed how good they are, how talented they are. The Arizona Christian team is going to do good in their conference on the NAIA level, but it was really cool to see, all of the girls scored, I think. I don't know if I've ever had a team that's done that since I've been here. They all scored. Nobody played over 30 minutes, I don't think. I don't even think I put my starters in at the end in the fourth quarter. So maybe other than one, just to kind of get a couple more reps in terms of minutes. So yeah, we're going in the right direction. There's no sugarcoating that. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens for the rest of the year for sure after our break.
You know, you played basketball. I know you probably hear this a lot, and I'm asking. This will wrap around to a New Mexico question. My parents. Here we go. Hey Ed, how can I figure out how to put the state of New Jersey, the Garden State, in a podcast? Here we go. My parents are from New Jersey. I used to absolutely love the Big East tournament. I've been in New York City when it's there, in its heyday. So I know what that kind of basketball means, even though it's funny, New Jersey's kind of a football state. But the Big East tournament to me, and even though what it is now, it's a different conference. Mm-hmm. With that said, that has nothing to do with my question, but with you in New Mexico, have you kind of, even within Las Cruces and obviously what happened last year, but Cruces and Albuquerque, and then at Western, have you kind of taken notice since you've been at Western New Mexico, what kind of basketball state New Mexico is?
I have, and you know what? I think early on when I first got the job at Western, in terms of recruiting in New Mexico, I wasn't even thinking about New Mexico because I didn't think the basketball was high quality compared to some of the other states. Obviously, Texas that are surrounding us, Texas, Colorado, Arizona, California. But I do absolutely believe over the last few years, 2, 3, 4 years, that basketball has gotten better. To the point to where we're recruiting hard out of New Mexico. We got a couple New Mexico student athletes that are on our team now that are contributing. We have a really good point guard coming in next year out of New Mexico. We have been recruiting the best new players out of New Mexico over the last few years and getting official visits and going through that process. So, I thought originally, especially when I was learning how to be a head coach in my first couple of years, I didn't think there was any fit for us in terms of New Mexico student athletes. But now, after doing detail and research and going through the process and getting the team to where we are now we can go in and get the best New Mexico players, outside of the ones that are just, they're going to be at New Mexico State or the University of New Mexico because they're that good and they've been committed to, those types of programs because they grew up in New Mexico and they know the history. But we're now at the point to where we're recruiting the best New Mexico players as well. So originally a little skeptical, but it's way better than I thought and way better than it used to be for sure.
One quick question about a New Mexico player that's on your roster, and she was hurt last year. Played at Centennial, Larissa LeBoran. Was a all-district player 2018, 2022. All-district player of the year in 2021. I saw her play last Saturday. I got a big knee brace on her left knee. Still seems to be a little bit laboring, not that catch and go move yet, but it's coming along, I think, pretty nicely. Had a nice game against Arizona Christian. What's her progress been like?
Great, man. We love Larissa. She's a very good basketball player. If we would have had her last year, we probably would have won for sure more than 10 games because she can score, she can defend, but she's a very good basketball player. She makes the right plays, and she scores in key moments, and she makes big plays in key moments. And I know, with your basketball knowledge, you saw the ball movement that we had out there against the zone. Even when we were up pretty solid, the ball was still moving. You didn't see unselfishness, but she's a big part of what we're going to do because you can give her the ball in the post, she can score. She'll make the right play when the double team comes. She can shoot, and she's just a really good basketball player. She's 2 years removed. The knee that she had to have surgery on this past year. The year before her senior year, she had surgery on that knee as well, so had the same injury. So she really hasn't played basketball in a year and a half. So what you see from her. And she's a freshman still. So what you see from her is her getting back to playing basketball at a high level, getting good coaching, and she's going to be a really good basketball player. She's going to be one of our best basketball players through this year and moving forward at some point.
I saw the potential, and I think, I said that on the broadcast, probably like January, February, she's getting more reps, more time on the floor. You can tell she's got what you said, Coach, the IQ. She's a good player, makes the right decisions. She's going to be a big help to Western New Mexico, no question.
Absolutely.
I know you're a busy guy when it comes. Obviously, I'm assuming that, and you know what assuming does. But you're a head coach of a major university. But do you find time to watch any NBA or NCAA basketball? And is there anybody that you like watching right now?
Absolutely, but I'm going to revisit something that you mentioned that real quick, and then you might have to remind me this question again. But
I will.
that Big East basketball back when you were talking, and Rutgers was one. They weren't our rival, but they were our rival. Rutgers. That game was always a big game. Villanova, Georgetown, Pittsburgh, UConn. That was really, really big basketball, and I was blessed and fortunate to be a part of that. So it's really cool to hear people talk about the old Big East because this younger generation don't know how good that conference was. Go ahead.
And I don't mean to interrupt you there. It's I'm sure you talk about it a lot, but it's like a buddy of mine from Albuquerque went to Seton Hall, and it's like it's Seton Hall this, Seton Hall out, Rutgers. And thank you for saying Rutgers properly. It's Rutgers, and I always say it wrong. But I remember I was at two things. I'm in my late 30s, but I can remember Ray Allen, Allen Iverson. I remember anything Boeheim, anything Jim Calhoun. Those Connecticut teams. I remember I was covering the Mountain West Conference tournament, and I think it was against Syracuse. And I'm sorry for that, but Kemba Walker, double overtime in the Garden. And again, I'm a Knicks fan, so talking to somebody who's been there and done that, my radar went up, man. I'm sorry, but it's so cool. No, I mean, do you have a specific moment in the Garden? And then my next question was, is there anybody professionally, whether it be women or men, college, professional, that you like watching right now?
Well, we played so many games in the Garden. We did our preseason tournaments in the Garden. We played our conference tournament in the Garden. So my senior year, we won the Big East tournament in the Garden against West Virginia. We beat UConn, we beat UConn the game before, who we couldn't beat in the regular season. They had Emeka Okafor, Charlie Villanueva, Ben Gordon, just crazy talent in the
national title team.
Right. The next year, they wanted. Well, we won my sophomore year. They wanted the next year.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that just talent, crazy talent. I like watching LeBron. Obviously, I like Kevin Durant. I'm an Oklahoma City fan just in terms of when Kevin Durant was there with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So it's really cool to see their young youth movement right now. College basketball, I'm obviously watching Syracuse. My team lost the other day. They lost yesterday against I think Gonzaga, and the day before against Tennessee. And really quick story, my sister's husband is an assistant coach on the University of Tennessee. So that was really cool for our team, for Syracuse, my old team, to be playing against them. And Rick Barnes, who's the head coach there at Tennessee, we played against him in the Final Four when I was at Syracuse. So I'm following some. Yeah, I'm following some college teams, following NBA teams, but I just love basketball. When I get the opportunity to watch when I'm not coaching, I'm watching. I'm locked in. Women's basketball, obviously, as well. Louisville's, Tennessee's. Obviously, you got LSU, South Carolina. So, no, I'm a fan of all basketball.
And I guess, bringing it home back to New Mexico again, jokingly here, Jim Boeheim, I have to ask you this now that I've got you on with us, Jim Boeheim. Adrian Autry is the new head coach. For somebody who have a staple there for 40 some years, and then, he retires, is the program in good hands with Adrian Autry? Obviously, I know there's a transition. You had it last year with John Schreier and Duke, and he got them to won an ACC tournament championship. He got them to the second. I think Tennessee got him, but he did that. What have you seen out of this Syracuse team this year, and how hard of a transition is that to replace such a legendary coach? And I know, like my friend Tim, if he listens, went to Seton Hall, his blood's boiling. His blood's boiling when you mentioned Jim Boeheim. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's a huge transition. I mean, Coach Boeheim basically took that program and made it what it is today. He almost took it from scratch, basically, and turned it into what it is. So huge transition. Coach Autry actually obviously played for Coach Boeheim as well. And he's coached on the staff for a long period of time. Coach Autry also started from a grad assistant. I was fortunate enough to be in a position that I'm in now. I got an opportunity to go right into D1 coaching as a coach. Coach Autry got it out the mud. He started from a grad assistant all the way up to where he is now. He had a pretty solid career at Syracuse. Everybody know who he is, and he wasn't given anything. So how he's gotten the job and what he's doing now, he's going to be really good. He has a lot of talent. Watching that team, you can still see the 2-3 zone in there, but we're playing man to man as well now, which is very cool. I think. I mean, you have to adapt to the times. Obviously, that 2-3 Syracuse zone is really good. We use it as well. but the times are a little different now. So all the different defenses that are going on, you have to be a part of the transition. He's doing a really good job. He's going to do well. It was actually in March after our season ended, I got the opportunity to go up to Syracuse for the retirement game that Coach Boeheim had the last game, and to see everybody. It was also our championship reunion. So, Syracuse is in a good space moving forward. It's going to take a little time. You got to get the repetitions. The players got to get the repetitions against some of these programs who are really good. That's been really good. They had their head coach in place for a while now. So.
Ed knows this. I've already mentioned it. I'm the big history guy, and I'll I'll let you get on with your day after this question. How does that 2003 tournament run stack up against any good, like UConn's this last year? I mean, they dominated everybody, but how am I phrasing this question? Could anybody beat you guys on that run? And how does it stack up in the history of college basketball, I guess?
I think anybody could beat us who has won a championship, but I think we could beat anybody as well. We were a very talented roster. I know you know who Jerry McNamara is. He was I
didn't even mention him. I'm so sorry. It popped in my head and I did. I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Go ahead.
He's the associate head coach at Syracuse, by the way. Very talented team. He was a freshman that year, one of the best shooters I've ever seen, competitors. You got Hakeem Warwick, one of the best athletes to ever come through, had a good NBA career. Billy Edlin was a really good point guard on that team. You had myself on that team. Quest Dewaney was one of our leaders, Craig Forth, and some others. So very talented team, but having Carmelo Anthony, having somebody like that with that talent that we had in our zone, we was long, really good. And the cool thing about the NCAA compared to the NBA, if you don't show up that one game, that's over. The NBA is 7. You get 7 games to try to figure it out. So I think we could have beaten anybody having somebody like Carmelo Anthony in that roster that we had as well. But these teams that win the championships, it's not easy to win the championship. It's almost impossible on the NCAA level, regardless of how good you are. So I think we would have matched up with any of those teams pretty well, especially having Carmelo, Jerry McNamara, Coach Boeheim, and Hakeem Warwick with the supporting cast that we had. We were really talented.
I appreciate that answer, Ed. It sounded like you were
one more quick thing for you, Coach. And I've told you the story before, but I want to tell Ryan. Syracuse comes here for the Lobo Invitational in '77. Roosevelt Bowie, the late Louis Orr, Marty Burns. New Mexico has Michael Cooper, who you're well aware of. Marvin Johnson. They're loaded, right? Syracuse barely beats us. It's a very, very good game, I remember. The Invitational names Michael Cooper the MVP, and Coach Boeheim loses it. I remember being down on the floor, and Coach Boeheim went crazy, man. And I don't blame him. They should have named one of the Syracuse Orangemen. That's the last time the Orange came here. But that was a heck of a game, man. The roof almost came off the pit that night, I remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Coach Boeheim went crazy. He probably went crazy in the press conference after as well. Probably said some things, knowing him. But great experience, great coach, and man, that's a talented. All those guys you just said are really good, man.
Oh man. Roosevelt Bowie, Louis Orr. Louis Orr played for the Knicks.
Syracuse Legends.
Yeah, Marty Burns got a cup of coffee with the Lakers. He was in the NBA too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
He is the women's head basketball coach at Western New Mexico. They are 4-0 right now. They play. I want to make sure I got this right. They play. Their next game is against St. Mary's University of Texas, not of California, as many around here probably aren't liking to hear that name. November 30th. That game. Ed, is that game in Silver City?
It is. I'll be back up there for that next week.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure I had that right. I'm looking at the website. His name is Josh Pace. Josh, I just want to let you know this was a pleasure of a conversation. I know it's a holiday week. I appreciate you taking your time. And Ed, I'm going to throw it out there. Both head coaches, man, Mark Bunker and Coach Pace here. Phenomenal conversations. I really appreciate it. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And definitely maybe down the road at the beginning of the year, we'd love to have you back on. Definitely talk more Western New Mexico basketball. But, man, when you got somebody like of your stature, I really appreciate the conversation because I'm sure you answer those questions all the time.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity as well. And to hear these questions based off of the program and not off of the background that I have as a basketball player, that it means a lot to me. So, that lets me know we're going in the right direction and I'm moving the right way when it comes to coaching.
Glad to hear that. His name's Josh Pace. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, and we appreciate you joining us here on the Pit Press Podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
See you next week, Coach.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.